In life, I used to struggle a lot with working hard, and not in the way you might think. Unlike others, my problem wasn't about doing the work. It was that my solution to everything was to do more work. And this led me to cycles of suffering, burnout, and overworking myself to solve all my problems because that's what had rewarded me in the past. And when your hard work pays off, it can become addicting to keep grinding, hustling, and running on the treadmill. And so this wasn't a switch I knew how to turn off, even when it affected everything in my life from athletics to photography. Naturally, I had to reset myself and reinvent how I went about things. One of the many concepts I've acquired in this past year and a half is called the law of reversed effort. It's also known as the backwards law, which basically states that the harder you try, the harder you fall. You may also be familiar with a concept from Eastern philosophy known as Wu Wei, meaning effortless action or non-action. And upon learning and applying these concepts to my life, I was not only able to be more productive, but more productive in a sustainable and more healthy way. So today I'm going to share with you guys what I've learned about the law of reversed effort and how you can take and apply these concepts to your life to achieve more by doing less. Picking what you work on. In the past, one of the greatest struggles for me was prioritization. My weekly planners from even half a year ago contained every single little task possible, and I had somehow decided I was going to do every single one of them. It's a fallacy. When there's always stuff to do and you're busy, you can trick yourself into thinking you're making progress and that every single little thing is important. Look at me, I'm getting so much stuff done. But the law of reversed effort basically states that things aren't that simple. The more work you do doesn't necessarily mean the same amount of progress. In reality, you will often get outsized returns for something that took little to no effort. For example, you'll see in YouTube videos that some videos get millions and millions of views despite the quality or amount of effort put in. This means that what we do is actually more important than how much we do. There's an interesting quote that illustrates this. Nature doesn't do anything, yet nothing is left undone. That's something I had to sit on. So in my life, I realized it's about letting go of these useless things that we deem as necessary. If hard work doesn't equate to a linear amount of progress, why are we wasting our time doing useless stuff? Why not spend more time doing the things that we enjoy the most and the things that give us the most bang for a buck or return on time spent? For me personally, this means more photography, more videos, more reading, more writing, stuff I really enjoy that also pays off later. And it also means less of pretty much everything else. Because the more time you spend doing other things, the more time it actually takes from you doing the things you enjoy the most. And so nowadays, I don't go out as much, I don't drink as much, I don't spend time or money on anything I don't really care about. Unless it's necessary, of course, but you get the point. Now, this doesn't mean being a bum and completely doing nothing. It still means being productive, but productive in your own way. And now productive has a new definition or new meaning for me. And in my opinion, life has gotten much better and much easier this way. So if you want to achieve more by doing less, you first have to pick what you work on. You have to learn to prioritize between what's important and what's not. And the good news is that this is a skill that you can learn and develop over time. I would recommend personally to start by making a list of everything you could possibly do or even want to do, and then just start crossing everything off until you're left with only one or two things. Those are the things that are important to you, and those are the things you should focus on. Now, this brings me into the next point, which is don't force it. When it comes to any creative work or just work in general, it's important to let your intuition lead you. Sometimes we think too hard and try to intellectually dissect every single problem that comes our way. But if there's anything I've learned over the years of trial and error, it's that doesn't work. Most of the times we already know what we have to do, we just have to get out of the way. Now, I used to do this often in photography. I would go out and take photos with an image I already had in mind of what I wanted. And the problem was this distracted me from what was actually happening around me. I was going out looking, seeking this specific type of photo I already had in my mind, and I was ignoring what was going on in the world around me and the actual opportunities that were presenting themselves to me basically on a silver platter. And so I've since noticed that instead of seeking out the photo that I want, to be more present and to look at what's around me instead and to make use of the tools I have at hand. And I realize that if I'm seeking some sort of outcome or I'm trying to force things or stage things, I end up with a worse result. You can't force or make an image appear in the real world. So this is something that also ties into the law of reversed effort. Remember, the harder you try, the harder you fall. So basically this means don't force it. Nowadays, I try to be more of an observer, embracing that nature or aspect of photography. And so what you or I might call the photography skill might actually just be what bridges the gap between what we see and the resulting image. So you can apply this to your work as well. If you find yourself thinking too much or working too hard, understand that if you try to force things, it might not turn out so well. Sometimes it can even help to intentionally remove yourself from the work to allow your brain to sort of figure stuff out. Go on walks, exercise, do something else, and when you return, things will be 10 times easier. You might be thinking, well, Andre, I have all this stuff to do, I can't just take a step back. Yes, you can. Remember what we learned back in point 1. If you're feeling overwhelmed, that's actually a prioritization problem. What we do is actually more important than how much we do. So if you find yourself with too many tasks, that means you're trying to do too much, and you should focus on the small little important tasks. And those ones, don't try to force, just take on as we go. The importance of breaks and resets. So it's often we think of life like one straight path. However, in reality, life is filled with many cuts and turns, ups and downs, and we change direction all the time. So if you're faced with hard times, understand that might actually be a sign to pivot. Now, this doesn't mean to avoid doing hard things. Really, this means to stop for a moment and assess whether or not this hard thing is the right thing for us to do in the first place. This way, we don't have to waste all this time and effort climbing a wall we don't need to climb. One of the things I found really helpful to reset my brain from overworking is to limit the amount of actual deep work hours that I have. I spend about 6 hours a day doing deep creative work, and then the rest of the day I'll spend doing other things like walking, exercising, reading, etc. This schedule not only keeps me productive, but allows me to rest. It also forces me to prioritize better because I'm limited on the amount of work hours I actually have. And so doing this has allowed me to think more clearly and pick the actual direction I want to go on the micro. I can better reassess and assess where I want to go. And so a quote I try to keep in mind is, the more you try and grab a hold of something, the more it slips through your fingers. So the reverse law of effort is not about grabbing every single little thing within our grasp. Rather, it's about being patient and calmly allowing these things that we want to come to us. Direction is more important than speed. And this is because sometimes if we don't pick the right direction and we just keep working, we'll end up in a place that we didn't intend to be in. But occasional breaks or sabbaticals or time to reset and think about where we want to go allows us to actually point ourselves and make sure we're aligned in the right direction. So another thing you can try is to intentionally schedule these breaks or sabbaticals. This is a period of time of rest and reset, not actually like vacation. It's just time to step away from the work and to ask yourself, what do I actually want? This space and time will allow you to determine the actual direction you want to go for the next few months or years or even the course of your life, and to make sure you're actually on the right path. Something I've noticed that actually helps when I schedule these breaks is that I actually get bored quite easily. You'd think it'd be nice to take a break in vacation or whatever and period of reset to do whatever you want and not have to work. But again, that was the struggle that was there for me, was to do the reverse or opposite, to force myself to stop doing the work. And so what I've noticed from these breaks is that when I actually schedule them in, I get quite bored of doing nothing fairly fast. And so that when I return from the breaks or the sabbaticals and get back to work, I'm actually excited, I'm re-energized, I'm re-motivated to do what I was slightly getting tired of before. Now, it's pretty interesting because it's counterintuitive to what society tells us about hard work, where we need to keep chugging along, we need to keep doing these things over and over and over. But if there's anything to take away from this, it's that hard work is not always the solution. It becomes much easier if you learn to work on the right things, you don't try to force the process, and you schedule or intentionalize your breaks or resets. If you can do that, you'll be able to achieve more by doing less. So hopefully these lessons I've learned can help you in your life with what you're doing or where you're going. And also, I'm currently giving away free 4x6 prints, so if you're interested, the link is down below. And thanks as always for watching, guys. I will see you in another video. Peace.